Hello everyone. I will try and make these videos a little bit quicker, but it tends to be that I have a lot more to say than I think I do. So this time I only have a few tabs open to go over. I am trying to put out, one video each day, and I must say that I don't know if any of y'all appreciate the thumbnails that I'm creating for these videos, but I am having a blast making these thumbnails. I'm laughing my ass off, really, is what it is. It just, like, the things that, like, get the Gary Gensler as the killer whale going after the baby seal miner. I like, for like half an hour, I just could not stop laughing at myself and what I had created. So, anyway, kind of to go on more, less exciting news. Bitcoin continues to trade sideways. Yay! There's a lot of talk this week about what the Fed is going to do. So that's actually the next article, is what the Fed will determine the fate of the market. 5 things to know. I mean, who cares? I mean, really. Because what the Fed did is they printed a whole bunch of money. They gave it to a lot of, Fortune 500 companies at basically 0% interest rate, or basically near 0% interest rate, and the people that got that money went out and bought real assets. So if, like, say for instance, a real estate investment broker went out and received $100 million in basically 0.01% interest, and they only have to pay what is it, $10,000 a year in interest on that $100 million or something like that. So you could see it's basically free money to them. And so, that real estate investor then goes out onto the market and then buys houses, which is part of the reason why you see the price of houses and rent and housing in general just going through the roof, because that is literally what has happened. Not only here in the United States, but also in China. I mean, I don't think that they have quite the same extent to print their money that we do, and it doesn't obviously have the same impact with the United States dollar being the world reserve currency and the Chinese yuan not being the world reserve currency. But nevertheless, they're billionaires and people of wealth, have all this extra money at really cheap interest rates, and they don't just want to sit on the money, because if the U.S. dollar is the world reserve currency and everything is back or pinned to it, and we keep printing money, that thereby extension it creates high inflationary aspects into other currencies around the world. Every other currency around the world will experience inflation because the U.S. is pegged to every other currency, and we are printing more money than we've ever have before. So it precludes people with a lot of money that are receiving this free and cheap money to go out on the market and to buy real assets like houses, real estate, commercial real estate, small businesses, other sorts of property, digital assets like Bitcoin. Like you don't understand how fraudulent this was here in the United States. The Fed gave everyone $1,200 checks, and then they gave literally trillions of dollars to corporations to go out and to either buy back their own stock or to buy real assets in the real physical world. I don't know how people are not irate about this. I understand it. I understand what happened, and I knew the second when they were putting out the stimulus checks, like, oh, this is great, it's free money. But I knew at the time, ultimately, like, it was going to end in inflationary prices, as we've seen recently. It didn't happen quite as fast as I thought it was going to happen, but it did happen nonetheless, and it has not yet stopped. So that's just, one thing that's going on this week with the Fed, and, whether or not they're going to increase interest rates, which is assumed everyone thinks that they are, and then also with the quantitative easing that they did, aka printing money, what they also kept some of that money for themselves and bought assets, and so now they're unloading the assets they bought. They're called quantitative tightening, where they sell off the assets, not everything, not obviously all the bonds or the dollars that they printed and gave corporations, but the things that the Fed owns, which is in the ballpark of trillions of dollars. So potentially trillions of dollars of assets are about to hit the open market, which is going to cause, and with higher interest rates, is going to cause the stock market to collapse. And so that's why I think, and a lot of other people are thinking, not only that is the reason why, but are seeing and thinking that the market is going to see a significant drawdown. And it'll be very interesting to see what Bitcoin does. I will tell you now, I have a $1 an hour purchase that I have automatically that I just keep doing over and over and over again. And I will not stop doing that. I will continue my $1 an hour DCA. And I can only, Bitcoin is an asset that nobody controls. And so thereby, if I tell you to buy Bitcoin, it's not a financial, it's a thing. Like, you can actually just tell people to buy, like they should buy Bitcoin. However, if you're giving people advice to buy a security like Ethereum or MicroStrategy, like, then you do need to be a licensed financial advisor to tell somebody to buy that asset. But, it's like telling somebody to buy real estate. Like, you should buy real estate. Like, that's generally good advice. And so, like, telling people to buy Bitcoin, that is, yes, generally good advice. And the IRS sees Bitcoin as property, as personal property. So you are allowed, and thereby, because, like I've said, because Bitcoin is not controlled by any one entity, it is not a security, it is personal property, it is defined as an asset by the IRS, that you are able and willing, and by all means, please go out and tell people to buy Bitcoin, because it will save them. So, getting off my high horse, getting off my rant here, going to move on to another subject. Sort of in the same realm of, assets and what you're able to do with your own personal property. The New York City and or New York State is putting on a 2-year ban of proof of work mining, aka just Bitcoin mining, because, there's Litecoin, and I think Ethereum still technically is proof of work, but who knows if they'll change or not, if they're able to. So it basically just is putting New York State, behind, because what they don't realize is that if, say for instance, they come across a very severe winter or very harsh summer where their electricity grid is being overworked because people need heat or cooling to one extreme or the other, they're going to find that when you have Bitcoin miners on your electrical grid, they have spent the time and effort and resources to build out your grid, and then they can turn off those machines and supply extra energy, when it's needed to other parts of the state. That's exactly what Texas is doing, and that's why Bitcoin mining is actually a good thing. And not only that, but the price of the Bitcoin that is mined can be offset in remote locations where energy is abundant, but you're not able to transfer or to connect with electrical cables, because you can only transfer electricity so far without having to need a transfer power station. So, there might be, hydroelectric dams, somewhere in New York State, or, solar or wind somewhere in the state that, is abundant, where, the wind blows all the time, or it's particularly sunny, or there's a lot of water flow through this one river in this particular area, but is actually inaccessible to a lot of people, where you can just have a few people reach out there in the outskirts and set up a Bitcoin mining facility, thereby you can capture the energy and then sell that Bitcoin to the open market and offset the cost of the energy that is being produced at higher rates closer to local municipalities. Sorry. So that's just one way that Bitcoin, can help your electrical grid, and that I think Texas is doing a very good job of that, and New York is basically shooting themselves in the foot. So that's what's going on in New York. I assume that this is probably just for like large institutional Bitcoin miners. If you're at home mining your own Bitcoin, I don't think that they're really going to care that much. And honestly, it's going to be hard probably to try and find somebody that's mining Bitcoin at home. If you have like a USB miner, or even like a S9, or something that's even slightly more powerful, if you're able to pay for it, then I don't see why they should have any sort of disgruntlement over it. Anyway, moving on. In addition to this BS, Wikipedia has stopped accepting cryptocurrency donations from proof of work. I don't know if it's all cryptocurrency donations. I thought it was proof of work cryptocurrency donations specifically, i.e. Bitcoin, Litecoin, Ethereum. Those are the big ones that I keep thinking about, but mainly Bitcoin and Ethereum, I guess. Mainly Bitcoin. Because they think that it is environmentally damaging or it causes concern, so they say here in this article. But if you really take the time, like I explained to you just a couple of seconds ago, how Bitcoin mining actually improves your electrical grid, yes, it does consume electricity, but as a society, as a people, as a species, the more energy you consume, the better it is actually for your species, because it means that you're able to capture more energy on your local host planet or from the surrounding environment around you. Like, it is a good thing that we capture energy and that we use it. Like, that is how we become a type 1 civilization. I think we're like a type 0.05 or something, right? Like, we're 0.5 or something like that. We're not even a type 1 civilization, whereas a type 1 is able to capture all their energy on their host planet. So once we're able to do that, then we will become type 1, and getting there is going to require actually using and consuming energy and not trying to be economically, green and, save the energy and all this other BS. Like, no. Use the energy, spend the energy, demand more energy production. Like, that's how that's how we will expand as a human species, as a race, as just biological things, going out into the universe and expanding our own, destiny and manifest and all that. We really, this is, I don't know where all this is coming from. I think I know where it's coming from, but it's all BS. I hope you know. So anytime that somebody really starts to go off the environmentally damaging aspects about Bitcoin mining, just know, 1, they don't know what they're talking about. 2, just take a deep breath, be calm, and try to explain it to them. Like, hey, I understand that, maybe you don't really, maybe you've been told these things and that's what you believe. And, it makes sense that, consuming energy means that you have to produce it, and that's not always clean and good places, and that's true. But when you incentivize cleaner energy at cheaper prices, that Bitcoin is a function for being able to do that, to incentivize cheaper, cleaner energy production. And so that's just where we need to go. So I am sorry, Wikipedia, that you've chosen this route, but we're just going to move on without you then. And then also I came across this, something that Willie Woo said today, that institutional money is scooping up spot BTC at peak rates. I don't know exactly what he means by peak rates, or whoever said this by peak rates, but maybe it's at these prices or the speed at which that they're buying. But my only thing is, like, we've seen this over and over and over again, that yes, institutions are buying, people with lots of money are buying, people with lots of Bitcoin are still buying more Bitcoin. And, we hear this all the time. So nothing new, but we should also understand that, don't sell your Bitcoin because you're going to be selling it to somebody with a lot more money than you. And if you want a decently, marginally acceptable slice of the pie in the future, you're going to want to hold on to your Bitcoin. He also says something about a supply shock. And I've been hearing about a supply shock in Bitcoin for at least a year and a half now. Like, if it's going to happen, it would have happened already. I think the price is being suppressed. I don't know, to what function it is being suppressed by or who's doing it. I'm not sure how, or I mean, I guess the why would be to continue to accumulate at cheaper prices. However, the plebs, so quote unquote, like people like me, are able to still accumulate, that believe and understand this technology, are also able to accumulate vast amounts of Bitcoin at these prices. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense to me as to why institutions would not try and pump the price quicker, sooner, so that they could, continue to buy at higher prices where most people would not really benefit from. So, and then lastly, just remember that, Bitcoin is the 9th largest asset on the planet. So when, the prices slump by 1/3%, you see everything else in the green for a day, like, don't get disgruntled. Bitcoin is going to continue on TikTok next block. And that's just the way that it's going to be. So just hold on tight, and we'll see you in 10 to 20 years. But I will see you tomorrow also.